Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Higurashi When They Cry Chapter 3 Tatarigoroshi. So last time Keiichi, he did his plan right. He finished off Satoko's uncle Teppei Hojo, right? So let's see what happens with Keiichi today. He's still trying to find the place where he's gonna bury him, right? And he's very like he's kind of panicking, I suppose, right? I went over to the streetlight. I looked up and down the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was. Oh no. This was the one road connecting Hinamizawa to the town. We were unbelievably far away from Satoko's house. Had the two of us really run so far a distance? My surprise at that was accompanied by the knowledge of the miraculous fact that despite running so far and making so much noise, we hadn't come across anybody at all. There was a long way between here and the ambush location where I dug the hole. There was no way I could carry that body that far. Aside from that, the bike the man took here was still lying in the middle of the path. Where do you put this bike anyway, right? That would be an issue. The police could tell whose motorcycle it was by looking at the license plate. And they wouldn't just leave it at that. Thankfully, the corpse was in a dark forest. In terms of urgency, dealing with the bike would come first. And I wanted to get the shovel back from where I'd left it next to the hole. I shouldn't drag the body there. I would have to deal with it right here. Fortunately, the ground was like mud from the downpour and was more sludgy here than where I was before. I might be able to dig a grave quickly here. Of course, my bicycle was still over where I left it to. It still wasn't over. Homicide had been only half of my goal. The other half would be just as important as the first. I would completely hide the body, not allowing a beginning to happen. I would erase the man like he never existed and regain the peaceful times we had before. Can you even have peaceful times here, Keiichi, after you did this? I bent my head backwards and calmed my mind even further. The big water droplets struck my brow mercilessly. They were actually quite comfortable, and for a while I let my desire have its way. After confirming that I was sharp again, I started running through the rain. The motorcycle was in the grass at the roadside. Considering how it looked, pelted with rain and covered in mud, it actually seemed like it had been lying there for a long time. The plan was to drop the motorcycle into the swamp. The swamp was a bit of a walk from here. I lifted the bike up. I didn't think it would be so heavy. I was a little surprised. But once I had it upright, it was fairly easy to roll it along. Still, pushing this thing all the way to the swamp was really not something I wanted to do. I could no longer ignore my exhaustion, and it warned me numerous times of how far away the swamp was. This motorcycle, I wonder if I could ride it well enough. Once I got it going, it would be basically the same as a bicycle. Wouldn't it get me to the swamp quickly? A plan suggested by my exhaustion, the anxiety at getting on a motorcycle for the first time withdrew. I turned the key and then you just kick this pedal, right? Yeah. Yes. Vroom. It's on. And then I gripped the handlebars first, the right, then the left. And then he fell because, yeah. Maybe I twisted him too much, the bike lurched, and I did a wheelie like an angry horse. Like usually when people try a bike for a first time, when they, what do you call that, ignition? Or when they pull it, they don't notice that they pull it very hard, right? And then it goes to a wheelie position. I did it as well back then. I lost it for a second, but it was a problem of how much torque to apply. Let's try that again. This time, slowly and gently. That time it went well. It was strange to be on a two-wheeled vehicle that would go even if I didn't pedal. Very odd, but I got used to it quickly. Mion once told me you could get a scooter license within a day, and she was clearly right. This was pretty easy. I needed to throw the metal bat into the swamp too. but I didn't know how I would pack the bat onto the motorcycle. Without much other choice, I stuffed it into the back of my shirt, feeling like a ninja carrying a katana. If I put the tip down the seat of my pants and hunched over, it wouldn't fall out. I got back on the bike and this time got going without any difficulties. I carefully pressed the button labeled light and a rather strong light came on, illuminating the way forward. I probably really shouldn't have turned it on, but I didn't have any way of seeing at this point and had zero confidence I could ride through this darkness. As the rain came down on me, I maintained a precarious balance and each inched my way towards a swamp. Along the way, I ran across a few people who seemed to be returning from the festival. But none of them had any interest in me. They were either all soaked through the rain and hurrying on their way home, or had their umbrellas low and their heads down. Yesterday, I might have been worried of these few passerbys, but right now it didn't seem too much cause for concern. In fact, it would probably be less suspicious to be riding out in the open like this instead of sneaking around. More and more though, I started to think of that idea as naive, brought by my exhausted state. I climbed a steep hill. On a bike, the hill would have put me out of my breath, but I just had to accelerate a little bit to climb the entire thing. Motorcycles are sure convenient. For a moment, its light illuminated, a sign before I passed by it. Onigafuchi Swamp, good children do not play around here. Still, it wasn't like the way to the swamp was cordoned off by a metal fence or anything. Parents and teachers would get mad at you if they found out you were playing at the swamp, but some of the bad kids in my class apparently snuck out here sometimes to see the giant crayfish in the place. They talked before about how they got to the candy shop and buy some pickled squid and then just tie it to a fishing line and throw it and all the crayfish would come running. Once I got up to the bank, there was a tiny ritual shrine and traditional ropes on one of the trees. And as it swallowed the downpour, the blackened swamp had waited for me. If I slammed on the accelerator from the cliff-like stop I was on now, the thing would fly straight into the middle of the swamp. I had to be careful not to fall in with it. If I drowned and disappeared, man, what a stupid ghost story that would be. On the night of the Higurashi, Sadako's uncle's corpse was found in a thicket by the road leading to town, and the Keiichi, my bar, went missing. People would whisper that I'd been demoned away. The 5th-year curse would be a half-baked one. I got off the bike and then twisted the accelerator as hard as I could. I let go just when it seemed like it would drag me forward. The bike shot off the cliff and was swallowed down into the swamp, leaving a far fainter splash than I imagined. Its surface was being pummeled by downpour and the muddy, filthy water was flowing into it. I couldn't even make out the motorbike I just thrown in there. It was pretty heavy after all. It would be quickly engulfed by the soft mud at the bottom of the swamp. And it would be pulled deeper and deeper until it reached hell itself. I felt no reluctance whatsoever in throwing the man's motorbike down to the land of the demons, but I did have a tinge of regret about Satoshi's bat. I washed the bat with muddy water and the gore sticking to it came off easily. Ugh. Oh, we got nice music now, finally. It was just raining and raining and raining. I had sort of shared today's events with Satoshi, so I wanted to give it a quiet place to stay. That's how I felt. I started to feel more like returning it to the locker room from before, so it could continue to keep watch over Satoko. Dude, that bat is damaged already. You can't bring that back.
Satoshi. 俺、多分お前のこと誤解してた。
Satoshi listened quietly without nodding. I'm absolutely convinced now. I think that if Satoshi was here, right, him and Keiichi would be, I guess, yeah, they would be friends. But yeah, we haven't really seen Satoshi though, so it's hard. But Usually when there's like two boys, right, and then there are a lot of girls in some animes, the two boys are always rivals, right? You were the one who beat your aunt to death last year and saved Satoko. I always scorned you and called you a coward who ran away, but I was wrong. To the rest of the world, some deviant was behind that incident, but I know. That was something you did for her. And then you disappeared. You finally got back the peace and lost it within days. So I swear to you that I will live life to the fullest from now on, live it enough for the both of us. I will live on as though this never happened. But I will never forget this short time we shared together for as long as I live. I didn't know what expression Satoshi made as he listened, but as someone who had protected the same girl, I felt he had smiled and given me his blessing. And then, my hand moved of its own accord, and the bat I had hesitated to throw away left my hands and flew through the air. It traveled its parabolic path, spinning all the while, and the swamp absorbed it without sound. There weren't even any ripples when it hit the surface. The surface was tempestuous because of the downpour and the bat was long gone. For a moment, I regretted having thrown it. But I realized that might have been what Satoshi had wanted.
そうだよな。俺はまだ感傷に浸る余裕なんかないんだよな。
I would return for my shovel and get on my bike, dig a hole to hide the body and bury it. It seemed like a simple sequence of events, but I felt extremely exhausted and I had to do it all tonight. Satoshi left me with only the advice that I need to finish this up soon. Then fell silent for eternity and disappeared at the bottom of the demon's abyss. I returned to the path I ambushed her uncle on. My bike was hidden, sleeping in the bush. I stood it back up. My whole body felt heavy. But I needed to finish this by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh, I forgot something. I didn't just come here from my bike. The shovel was here too. Not good. I was zoning out. Every once in a while, if I let my guard down, my vision would almost go black. Pull yourself together, Keiichi Maibara. It's still not over. I went in a grove of trees and looked for the hole in which I'd hidden the shovel. Unfortunately, I had hidden it deep in the forest, not wanting it to be seen, and now everything was black in the night, and I couldn't see anything anymore. I reawakened my fading consciousness and realized just how big this annoyance really was.
おい、マジかよ。
Wait, what happened? The sweat the rain washed away before came back up to my skin. Deep in the forest where the street lights could never reach. The fact that it would be so pitch black had been completely uncalculated. With this much darkness, even if I had been able to kill him right away, like I'd planned, I didn't know if I still could have buried him without a problem. What should I do? I simply couldn't find the shovel tonight. If I force myself to go deep into the forest, I lose even my sense of direction and might actually get lost in there. That might have been an exaggeration, but it was fully possible I tripped over a tree root and sprained my muscle. Alright, my house storage room. There was another shovel there, the same fold-up kind. Couldn't I go back to the house, get the shovel, and give up on finding the shovel tonight? It's not as though the name Maibara is written on the shovel. But it seemed like an unusual item from an import variety store made in another country, so I didn't want to leave that shovel here. But in this darkness, I couldn't do anything. I should just give up and go back to the storage room. And there was an electric lantern in there. If I used that for light, I could look for it. Why didn't he even bring a flashlight, right? Come on. But it was so extremely dark, could I light the way with just a lantern? The light of a lantern in this dark night. I couldn't discard the possibility of it drawing eyes. And I doubted if I could find the shovel with the lantern's feeble light. Besides, I left the body there for a pretty long time already. My sense of fear, dulled through excessive exhaustion, finally reared its ugly head. Anyway, for now the most important thing was to hide the body. A shovel being found wouldn't be a big deal, but a corpse? If they found that, I'd share the same fate as Satoshi. First, I'd go back to the storage room at home. Then I'd get the lantern. Now that it gotten this dark, I might still need a little light to dig a hole for the body too. And I'd get the shovel. And then I'd deal with the body first thing. Once that was done, I'd come back here, find the shovel, and bring it back. I had to at least do that much, but I was so tired. But complaining was getting me nowhere. If I started getting complacent now, everything will have been for naught. At some point, I had sat down. I gritted my teeth and endured lifting my heavy hips. The night was young and full of terror. All the nights I'd experienced, none had ever been this long. Then, would it all end? The night was young. Higurashi, one day cry. What is he gonna do though? Why didn't he bring some flashlight or whatever? The lights at home were dazzlingly bright. Suddenly, they reminded me of how hungry I was. I checked the clock and saw that it was almost 7. I thought for sure it was 2 or 3 in the morning already. I was surprised at how messed up my biological clock had gotten just from this one night. There was a warm light coming from the curtains in the living room window. The worlds between here and what was beyond those curtains were so different. If only that man hadn't shown up, I would have been in that light. I'd still be excited from the festival, and I'd be talking to my parents about how much fun I had with all of my friends. And then even though they made a hot meal for me, I would have eaten way too much at the stalls, barely eaten any of it, and then gone back to my room. No doubt I'd crawl into my futon and easily let myself fall asleep. But right now, I was completely different. There wasn't a single ember of warmth from those weak streetlights. Right now, I was unconnected to any time spent with my family, and there was neither warm food nor the time to allow myself to sleep. My body exposed to the cold rain, I knew that simply I had to spur myself on to accomplish what I must. I realized how timid, how cowardly I was becoming. For what purpose did I need to kill someone so badly that it was worth feeling this terrible? I'd lost sight of that purpose. I selected the fastest, most fundamental way of saving Satoko and executed it without hesitation. The man was dead. He was gone. He would never ever hurt Satoko again. We all thought frantically for days on end about Satoko's problem, and finally with no options, we gave up. And I had solved it in one night. By myself, without anyone's help. Right about now, Satoko would be making dinner for her uncle despite not knowing when he'd return. And she might be spending the night trembling in fear of whether he'd yell at her for how it tasted. But her uncle wouldn't come home. She wouldn't have to fear his wrath nor let him make her feel sad. I see. I did it. I successfully saved Satoko. All I'd been thinking about for a long time was killing that man, and I'd forgotten the feeling that it was actually all to save her.
そっか。
I did something good. That's right. But it's still wrong though. I did something good, didn't I? I felt the hot tears coming from my eyes. And that's when I first realized that the exhaustion I'd been feeling was actually guilt. But yeah, Keiichi crossing the line, man, right? Damn. For a while now, our hat just been scraping away with its tip, hurting my heart. It hurt so bad, I couldn't stand it. It was throbbing painfully. It hurt so much, it was painful that I cried. I cried tears of joy at saving Satoko. I didn't know why really anymore. I just cried. My tears fell and fell. As I stood there for a while, coming to terms with those warm tears, my heart was comforted a little. Alright, Keiichi, my Bara. That's enough. There's nothing to regret or feel ashamed about. Both my body and my mind were thoroughly exhausted, and that was a fact. It was only natural I couldn't feel anything. Even tomorrow and the day after that, I might not be able to feel anything for a while. But there was one thing that was true. There was the indisputable fact that I had saved Satoko. One day, we would surely be rewarded. One day, I would be proud of how distressing an enterprise I had undertaken to get Satoko's smile back. And so that I could wait for that day, I had to put the finishing touches on this night. If I left it undone, everything I accomplished today would be for naught. I looked back up at the sky, which didn't look like it would stop raining anytime soon. Then I rubbed my eyes and summoned forth energy from my core again. How long did I plan on spacing out? This isn't the time for daydreaming. Someone could find that corpse this very moment. That pessimistic thought was proof that the very natural emotion of fear had returned to me. As I allowed the fear to spur me onwards, I went to look for the other shovel and the lantern inside the storage room. It was fortunate, I remembered, what it looked like around the streetlight that the body was near. With how dark it was quite possible I wouldn't have been able to look for it either. I didn't realize when I left the place, so the idea of memorizing the spot hadn't even crossed my mind. And that's why I had to call it fortunate that I had managed to get back to the body like this. The corpse was now located in a big muddy puddle. Half the thing had already sunk into the swamp like a pool of water. I only realized afterward, but there was an unused irrigation channel right nearby clogged with fallen leaves and dirt, and there was rainwater flowing in right there or from there. My shoes had been washed with the water for a long time now, so without any hesitation I stepped into the puddle. Luckily, the whole muddy stream washed it all away. I couldn't leave any slight traces like bloodstain. The rain was like a blessing from heaven. I checked around me, paying very close attention, then turned off the lantern. It became pitch black, but my eyes got used to the darkness in a few moments, and once I managed to reach the street light on the other side, I was able to make out even faint lights. I stuck the shovel into the puddle right next to the corpse. The ground was even looser here than I thought, and the shovel tips easily slid inside it. I had to hurry and dig it. If I took too much time, I might lose my energy and strength again. It felt almost like digging a hole in the sand at the beach. It was easy to dig, but no matter what, the muddy water kept flowing in, covering the hole. The digging wasn't going as well as I'd hoped. I dug and the water would go in, so I couldn't get a sense of how deep it was. The only way for me to measure it was to bury my own foot in the mud. So I'm digging just fine. It's alright, don't be disheartened. Dig, dig, dig. Occasionally, a car would come by on the road and I'd hurry to hide myself in the trees. Everyone was only passing through. They wouldn't have their eyes peeled in this darkness. I understood it logically, but I still couldn't help but hide. What I was really scared of wasn't quite the one of those cars would coincidentally happen to witness me here. It was the distance that I could spot the cars from was getting gradually shorter. At first, I noticed the splashing sounds from really far away as the cars drove through them. I started noticing them less and less, and then with the car that just passed by, I didn't notice it until its headlights were upon me. I felt my senses growing duller by the second. If someone were to peek in secret as I was burying the body at the worst possible time, maybe I wouldn't even notice. The moment I thought that, I took a good look all around me. I roused all my half-asleep senses and searched for signs of presence nearby. What if I found out someone was spying on me from the trees? A carnivorous feeling snarled at me, glaring. If there was, then I would dig another hole. I'd come this far already. In order to achieve perfection, I didn't care how much more I had to pay. I didn't know what kind of face I was making at the time, but it was definitely a fervently glaring one. My five senses reached a conclusion. Then nobody was present. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief. How long have I been digging this mud out of here? It was deep enough for it to go up to my knees. Maybe this was enough? Maybe I'd throw the corpse in as a test? I swallow, getting my breathing under control. Despite how much I'd beaten him, I was afraid of touching the corpse. So instead, I dragged it by the feet to the hole. It took more than just a waggle and tug to do it. But of course, it did. Considering this man's weight was easily 80 kilograms. I rallied all my strength and dragged him. At this point, my groundless fears that he might suddenly start moving again had vanished long ago. His body fit perfectly into the muddy hole. It was more than deep enough. Alright, let's bury him. Quickly, quickly, quickly. If I did a perfect job of burying it here, everything would be over. I would hide it into the hole and none of this would have ever happened. When I realized I only had a little farther to go and to finish everything, I was racked with pointless anxiety, like I was in a race against time. It was like I was absorbed into delusion that if I didn't bury the body quickly, it might come back to life. I doubt it though. In any case, in a great rush, I poured mud and dirt into the hole. If I didn't work efficiently, someone might find me here. Until now, I figured if someone saw, I just killed them, but not anymore. Jesus Christ, Keiichi. I was arrested with such absolute fear that if someone saw me, it would be all over. As I finished the work off, it was a total mess. The splish, splash, squish, squash. I drew the surface of the shovel across the ground, trying to make it flat. I was completely covered in mud at that point. The rain washed the mud off my body, but not off my now blackened clothing. My body and mind were caked with panic, fear with rain, and sweat with mud. My shoulders heaving, I threw down the shovel and sat down in the mud. I was so exhausted, man, that I wanted to lie down right here and sleep. It was over. This time, for real. It was over. The man was now in the bottom of the wet dirt. Right this moment, there were traces that this place had been dug up, but the rain flowing in muddy water would completely cover it all within moments. Yes, it was over. And then I fell over backwards, face up in the mud. Raindrops pelted my face without mercy, but I didn't care. After staying there for a while and resting my mind, I got up again. It was over, so let's go home. You already buried the whole thing, so now it's like it never happened. It never happened, so there's no reason for me to stay out here and get rained on. I wobbled my feet. I wouldn't use a shovel anymore. I considered disassembling it, but I didn't have the strength in my absolute exhaustion. I didn't really need to take it apart anyway. Dragging the shovel behind me, I headed towards the light. I stood up my bike. It had been laying in the grass by the road. I didn't know how I was going to get the still assembled shovel into the front of the basket. I put the shovel down the back of my shirt like I'd done with the baseball bat. Unlike the bat, the corner of it was on my back, making it very painful. Plus, if I relaxed my posture even a little, it would fall out behind me. I ended up having to carry the shovel in my left hand and ride my bike using only my right hand. Not only I was in a state of total exhaustion, this was a downpour. One hand the handlebars. I was swaying to and fro like a drunk. But I didn't care. Even swaying like this, I got a little closer to home every time I pedaled. I saw two lights swaying slowly in front of me. A car was approaching. Oh no, I need to get out of the way. From far away in the shadows of the darkness, a car appeared. Its dazzling lights washed over me. The driver made a short honk of the horn to inform me I was in the middle of the road. I have to get out of the way. I kept telling myself that, but not only was I riding one-handed, I was exhausted, so I couldn't do anything. Wobble, wobble, wobble. I meandered about, not going to the right or to the left. The driver decided to swerve out of the way right in front of me, and without lowering its speed much, steadily came towards me. Its outline grew larger in my vision, and telling myself again that I really needed to get out of the way, I jerked the handlebars in one direction, then lost my balance and fell over, bike and all. My whole body splayed out and one foot got caught in the bike. This was seriously bad. My drowsiness quickly vanished because it's panicking now, and just as cold sweat broke out on my skin. The drivers recklessly spun the wheel to the left, made a counterclockwise U-turn, and came right up to me and stopped. The driver's seat's door opened and the driver came out. "You idiot, what are you doing?" I was pretty sure someone would yell at me like that. Oh hell no, it's Takano. Oh my god. It was a woman's voice and one I knew. I lifted my face off the ground and looked at her.
Takano-san.
Konbanwa. Tsuki no kirei na yoru ne. Maebara-kun.
It was raining too hard to see the moon. Takano-san unfolded an umbrella and smiled as she spoke. That smile was for some reason uncanny, like she'd seen right through me. Out of all the people I could have met, I got the sudden feeling that this was the one I wanted to see the last. True.
こんな時間にどうしたのかしら？傘もささずに全身ずぶ濡れの泥まみれで。それは何？シャベル？
She had come here via car. She wouldn't have known what I was just doing. And yet she smiled as though she knew everything. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. She always makes that mysterious looking smile, remember? Don't let her on to anything lest you dig your own grave.
噂じゃあなた、ゴルフクラブで野球に参加したそうだけど。そのシャベルも、つまりはそういうこと？傘の代わりってわけかしら？
Okay, sorry, I accidentally clicked it. What did she say again? Okay, you're using it as an umbrella. I should tell a good lie here. If I could just do that, things would work out.
レナと宝探しにダム現場に行った時にこれを忘れてきちゃったんですよ。
それをこの土砂降りの中取りに行ったわけ？
家を出た時は降るとは思いませんでしたので。
あら、降り出したのは結構前よ。あなたずいぶん前から表にいるのね。
まあほっつき歩いてましたから。
それにしたって、あなた向こうからこっちに向かってきたんでしょ？ダムとは場所も方向も正反対よ。
Takano-san was clearly aware that something exceedingly abnormal was happening with me. And as she played her little word games, she was enjoying driving me into a corner. Maybe she had a vague guess just from the situation of what I've been doing. My timing really sucked to run into her of all people of all the times. At the very end, I could only be frustrated with my terrible luck. I'd done so much and the end was literally right around the corner. So why at the very end did they run into her of all people? What do you do, Keiichi Maibara? You're still holding something that could be dangerous or could be a dangerous weapon. Will you silence Takano-san? Dude, you don't silence her right now. Even if it would be simple to kill Takano-san, dealing with the car she'd come in afterwards would be an issue. I couldn't drive a car. It was completely different from a motorbike. But even if the car was here, as long as there was no proof I killed her. Yes, in tonight's downpour without any prior planning, all by coincidence, I hit and run. As long as I didn't drop any handkerchief with my initials in them, they would never know I killed her. A black flame quietly smoldered in rage in the core of my body.
怖い顔いじめすぎちゃったかしら
Takano-san started to laugh by herself and thankfully stopped talking about it. But then the dark clouds in my mind didn't go away.
それはそうといつまで自転車にまたがったまま地面に這いつくばってるつもりそろそろどいてくれるかしら
If I move, she would leave. So I tried to get to the bicycle up and out of the way, but then twisted my ankle in it and fell over. There was a sharp pain in the ankle I twisted. This is nonsense. A sprained ankle right now?
あら大丈夫ひょっとしてひねっちゃった
Takano-san squats down and takes a good look at the ankle I keep rubbing. She compares it to my facial expression, apparently trying to gauge how bad the wound was.
立てる
I didn't expect to, but couldn't even stand up. It was all I could do to shamelessly wriggle on the ground like a caterpillar. Takano-san looked at her watch, then at the car, and after thinking for a moment, opened the passenger seat's door, and then gave me her shoulder to stand up with.
家まで送るわなんだか私が跳ねたみたいで嫌な気持ちだけどね
すみません
見捨てるのも気の毒だし私が優しい人でよかったわね
Nobody good has ever called themselves a nice person, but that would have been a terrible thing to say to someone holding me up like this. I took Takano-san's hands and sat down in the passenger seat. Takano-san went around the back and looked at my bike on the ground.
自転車は後日ってことにはならない
I could clearly tell from her face that she thought it would be a pain since it would be heavy and it would get her car dirty. But my bike has the name Maibara written on it. I couldn't leave it out here like this.
そのなんとか車に詰めませんかないと困るんで
トランクはもういっぱいなの後部座席なんかに積んだらシートが泥で汚れちゃうわまああなたを乗せた時点でもう十分に汚れてるんだけれども
I turned back to the back seat and see someone's folding bicycle there already. It still looked big enough to fit my bike in there as well. My expression reflected my thoughts and the exact thought seemed to get through to her.
わかったわわかったわ積んであげる 今夜だけはお姉さんも優しくしてあげるわ。
Takano-san continued with her mean jokes, but she hoisted my bike and loaded it into the back seat for me. The mean jokes were one thing, but couldn't she do something about that eerie smile of hers? And even more importantly, the bike, I didn't want to leave the shovel here. The shovel could be directly connected to the buried body and to me.
ついでで申し訳ないんですけど、シャベルもお願いしていいですか？
Takano-san gave me a clearly dubious expression.
シャベル？別にいいけど、大事なもの？
The more I talk, the worse it gets for me. That's how I felt, so I didn't force myself to answer her. Eventually, outlasted by my silence, Takano-san gave a short shrug and sighed.
はいはい、わかったわ。僕はシャベルがないと困っちゃうんでしょ。そんな怖い目しなくてもいいわよ。
Takano-san brought over a shovel that was lying in the middle of the road. I clutched it like I'd never let go of it again. Takano-san watched me with a puzzled look.
じゃあ行くわよ。前原くんのお家ってあの前原屋敷でいいんでしょ？
My bar mansion.
なんでみんなうちのことを前原屋敷って呼ぶんですか？
I mean, your house is very big, that's why.
だって現にお屋敷じゃない。お金持ちが羨ましいわ。
As she spoke, Takano-san pulled the handbrake and stepped on the gas. After making a skillful U-turn using the shoulder of the road, she steadily increased in speed. From the rearview mirror, the accursed place seemed to melt into the darkness.
慣れた？
Ride? What do you mean ride?
え？あ、すみません。よく聞こえませんでした。今なんて？
Takano-san suddenly tried to say something to me, but thoughtlessly I didn't catch it. Looking ahead, Takano said the same thing one more time.
したい。
She knows. I mean, she's evil though, yeah, right? Like, I've always sensed that she's evil. She's been doing like very suspicious stuff, and now she knows this.
上手に埋められた。
I thought my heart might be out of my chest, but I didn't let it show. What would you even do in this situation? But my lungs were squeezed tight and I couldn't breathe.
何を言ってるんですか？
こういう山奥に死体を埋めるときはね、結構深く掘らないと野犬とかが匂いを嗅ぎつけて掘り返しちゃうことも多いのよ。野犬が加えてた人骨で事件が発覚。警察一帯を山狩りへなんて結構ないことじゃないのよ。
Pound, pound, clang, clang. Huge rusted bells started ringing in my head. Had I buried it so deep that I could say it absolutely wouldn't be found? The answer was no. I was in such a rush to bury him and get it over with that I couldn't deny having possibly buried it too close to the surface. No, wait, that's not... Wait, anyway. This woman, how does she know? She had just passed by here in her car by coincidence, and now we ran into each other by coincidence. And if she had been watching the entire thing from the trees and once I left, she came back in her car, it didn't make a logical sense. So then, why? Keiichi Maibara, that's it, you need to kill her. My entire body reawakened and I could feel my pupils dilate. I couldn't possibly beat her to death with a shovel in such a small car. Then I would use my hands and strangle her. But she was driving right now. If I strangled her, we might get into an accident. Then suddenly Takano-san turned and looked at me.
ボケもツッコミもなし。
For a moment I was surprised. What was she talking about?
私たちあんまり相性は良くないみたいね。
Takano-san said disappointed, returning her gaze ahead. I repeated the word she'd said a few times in my head and finally realized she'd meant it off as an off-color joke. I didn't know whether it was actually or it was really a joke, but I wouldn't be able to fool her no matter how many times I lied or how many lies I told him. Right now, with her driving the car like this, I couldn't kill her. I would have an even harder time doing it when we got back to my house. That moment we met, that had been my best chance, and to have missed it so easily, it hurt. After that, Takano-san didn't say a single word. The car was completely buried in an almost suffocating silence. What kind of woman had I run into? With everything that happened today, I managed to pull it off, and at the very end of it all, I just had to go home and go back to sleep. What bad luck. As my sleepiness gradually overtook me, the anxiety I felt suddenly started to matter less and less. Is this alright, Keiichi my bar? You probably should not leave this woman alive. Right now, I am tired. She stepped on the brakes and I jerked against my seatbelt. That woke me up. I thought I must have fallen asleep by accident. I looked out of the window and there was a big building with faint lights on it. It was really dark out, but I knew immediately it was my house.
今ご家族を呼んでくるわね。少しの間だけど一人でお留守番できるかしら。
バカにしないでください。それにほら、もう大丈夫です。一人で歩けますから。
あらあら、さっきは痛そうな顔して肩まで借りたのに。ひょっとしてお姉さんに甘えてみたかったから。
As Takano-san spoke, she left the car and opened up her umbrella. The sound of falling raindrops was fierce as always. I carefully reached down and rubbed the ankle I'd twisted. There was still pain and a little weirdness, but they weren't that bad anymore. Rather than being happy about how light the wound was, I first regretted this whole thing. If I hadn't twisted my ankle, I could still have taken the option of killing Takano-san right then and there. But Jesus though, Keiichi. Like he's gonna, like, it's okay for me. Yeah, it's okay if he kills Takano. I don't really care. But him thinking like this though, he's changed. I mean, I guess he killed someone already though. So I guess what's another one, right? But yeah, there probably wasn't much doubt that Takano-san was convinced I was involved in some sort of crime. If she knew about everything happening to Satoko, then she might have even guessed I'd killed somebody. A click. Takano-san opened the passenger side door to me. Or for me.
本当に肩は必要ないかしら。もう一回だけ甘えてもいいのよ。
I ignored her and answered by getting out of the car by myself. The rain was still pretty intense. I got my bicycle out of the back seat. I was a bit curious who the other's bike belonged to, but that didn't matter right now. I let Takano-san hold the umbrella over me and then pushed my bicycle up to the front door.
ありがとうございます。もうここまでで大丈夫です。
My uncle my ankle, I say uncle, ankle hurt so much earlier, and it still did, but it aggravated me that it hadn't even been that bad. It was really seriously terrible luck.
じゃあ私はこれで失礼するわね。前原くんと二人きりで夜のドライブだったなんてみんなには内緒よ。特に二郎さんにはね。
Jiro-san. Oh, she meant Tomitake-san. What was she again? Oh, okay. I suppose she calls him by his first name. His full name must be Jiro Tomitake. And then the other bike, the folding one in the back seat that I didn't care about at first, suddenly came to mind. Oh yeah, because Tomitake had a bike, right? Hey, excuse me, you're from Hinamizawa, right? This was, I think, a couple episodes back. On the day before yesterday, as I walked near the dam, half asleep, Tomitake-san had talked to me. And the bicycle he's been riding, it was...
あの後ろに積んであった自転車、富武さんのですよね。
Takano-san's eyes, I think they sharpened for a moment.
どうしてそう思うのかしら。
以前に会った時見てますから。フレームも特徴的でしたし。
でもおかしくないかしら。この自転車が二郎さんのものだなんてことありえると思う？
おかしいって。
Takano-san, her hair elegantly fluttering, pierced into my eyes.
だってひなみ沢には民宿なんてないのよ。なら二郎さんは町に泊まっていることになるわよね。
そうなんですか？まあそうならそうなんじゃないですか？
町からひなみ沢まではとても歩いてなんか行き来できないわよね。バスだって走ってないし、せめて自転車くらいはなきゃね。
She didn't need to tell me that. That's why Jiro-san was riding a bike.
その二郎さんの自転車が私の車に積んであって、二郎さんは私の車に乗っていないならおかしいじゃない。
So is she like basically implying that she was the one who killed him? Like who's been killing him in the past couple chapters?
二郎さんはひなみ沢で自転車なしってことになっちゃうわよ。二郎さんを放っておいて自転車だけが私の車に積んであるなんてね。ありえないでしょ。
As she spoke, Takano-san made eyes like a hawk. Unfortunately, I didn't really understand what was odd.
それの何がおかしいんですか？高野さんは富武さんとは仲がいいんですよね。何かのようで自転車を積んであげたって別におかしいことだとは思わないですけれど。
そうじゃないでしょ。つまりこのひなみ沢において二郎さんとその自転車がバラバラに存在することはありえないということなのよ。以上の理由からこの自転車が二郎さんのものであるわけがない。理解できたかしら？
Takano-san's roundabout way of talking was hard to comprehend, but that eeriness I could feel, that vague dreadfulness, I didn't like it at all. But the most wild instinctive part of me warned me not to pry.
あれは私の自転車なのよ。
Is it really? You're lying.
二郎さんに選んでもらったからセンスが似てるのは間違いないけれどね。
あ、そうだったんですか。
Why would you need a bike though? You have a car.
道理で似てるとは。
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
See, she's the one. She killed Tomitake for sure. Look at her face. Look at this. And now she was talking about something completely different. Why would you even say that, right?
何を言ってるんですか？
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
I stayed there not knowing what to say, and Takano-san repeated her eerie.
私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。私とあなたは今夜出会わなかった。
Something cold and unpleasant crawled up my spine. I knew because I'd killed a person with my own hands before. Before, I came to the conclusion that I only had one chance to beat this woman to death to keep her quiet, and I couldn't hesitate. So I could tell that she had arrived at the very same conclusion. My instincts warned me again. I wish I'd never met this woman. The faint sense like a rotten smell drifting from this woman was no doubt the exact same sense as I was giving off right now. So yeah, both murderers can sense each other, right? The very peculiar aspiration, the lack of uncertainty at taking a human's life for a purpose, one that only those who have risen above everything had. Actually, maybe I should call it a nausea. It meant, and I didn't know how to explain this very well, but Takano-san was the same as me. In other words, someone who shouldn't have been here. Someone I couldn't have let anybody know was here. Somebody who nobody would have wanted to see. And now that we could calmly pretend as though we never met. Yes, which meant that just like I wanted to have nothing else to do with her, she didn't want anything to do with me either. And she too wanted to make it so that we never meet or never met. Both of us wished for the same thing. Our desires were the same, which meant Takano-san's suggestions was extremely practical. And that I couldn't outright refuse.
それでいいならそういうことでもいいです。俺と高野さんは今夜出会わなかった。
そうよね。あなたにとってもその方がいいでしょうから。
どうしてそう思うんですか？
いちいちうるさいわね。それくらい自分で考えられないの、坊や。
Boy. She cut me off with the condescending word boy. Right in front of my house in a place most unsuited to killing. And yet there was a frozen thirst for blood coming from both of us. I would be killed right here, right now. Yeah, then I should have definitely beaten her as we passed each other. A damp, greasy sweat broke out on my body. That's fine if you want me. Then you can come anytime. And when I made up my mind, she took her hair elegantly and turned on her heel.
よかったわね。私が優しい人で。
I'm a kind person, you liar, you snake. What was good? How? Because she was a kind person? Was that it? I didn't get it. Takano-san got into her car. We didn't exchange any words of parting. I performed a massive feat, the killing of Satoko's uncle, and yet I didn't feel any accomplishment. On the holy night of Oyashiro-sama's curse, on which the taking of another's life was allowed. On the terribly rainy night when the demons wandered as agents of Oyashiro-sama's will. The demons were never supposed to meet, but suddenly they did. The demons parted away triumphantly. There was no reason for them to fight. Both their objectives had already been accomplished. With the rain hitting me like a waterfall, my eyes met with Takano-san through the car window. The female demon, her mouth twisted into a distorted, fearless smile. It was too late to kill her. far too late. That first moment, the very first moment we saw each other had been my best chance. And now that we had parted like this, I was acutely aware of it. I should not have let her live. She beeped her horn quickly and then drove her car away into the deluge. Then one woman who knew exactly what really happened tonight disappeared into the dark. As long as she was alive, the night would never really end. Just get into an accident, I thought to myself. In this downpour, slip on some mud or something and fly face first into a tree and die. That wasn't a delusion, a wild flight of fantasy. Dude, what the hell is happening with this chapter, by the way? It is the most I mean, I guess a second one, but by the end it was very violent with Mio and Shion, right? At the ending. But this one, yeah, the words that has been spoken by Keiichi here. Killing people, murdering, I hope you die. Damn, and we haven't, we're not even, I guess, close to the ending, I suppose, right? It was an earnest wish. Yes, it was a command. Die. Die. And keep your mouth shut for eternity. Because I have no doubt you're wishing me for me to die all the same. My curse upon her faded emptily as Sekano-san's tail lights disappeared into the utter darkness. Her car's lights were completely out of sight now. Even the sound of the engine faded into the sound of the heavy rain and was inaudible now. I too turned on my heel to draw the curtains on this insane night, to open my front door and end it all. I began walking towards the front door. I was covered in mud and I made a squishing sound with every step I took. Squish, squish. Don't worry, Keiichi, my bar. Squish. Squish, squish, squish. She'll die. Squish. Her end will be as miserable as she is. I'll throw her into some flames alive and let her dance until she's burned to a crisp. I'll burn her to ashes in the fires of hell itself. Until she's roasted as much as she deserves.
そう願うぜ。本気でな。
Just now, I hadn't taken a step, and yet a footstep. Without emotion, I turned around. If there was a footprint that wasn't my own, then it was obvious someone else was behind me. Was somebody else there? I was sick of this. Whoever it was, I was sick of everything tonight. This time, I would kill them. I'd kill them without a second thought. I wouldn't hesitate to turn around and dig another hole. But fortunately, there was nobody there. I wasn't going to have to kill any more people tonight. This night, I couldn't handle any more of it. Even if I heard an extra footstep each time I stopped, I put it down to me just being tired. Dude, this is very exhausting, honestly. Those words, a lot of words by Keiichi there. I think this is the most time with Red, like me speaking, I mean, in this chapter the most, because of it was Keiichi mostly alone, right? Thinking what he was gonna do, helping Satoko, thinking what to do to help Satoko, and all of this happening, right? In the other chapters, we're like, most of the time we're always with some other characters. For example, we're with Shion, we're with Mion, we're with Rena, stuff like that, right? But for this one, like half the chapter, Keiichi is mostly alone. Ever since that Satoko incident, I suppose. Fire from hell.
Hi, もしもし。救急ですか？消防ですか？
消防です。
火事ですか？事故ですか？落ち着いて話してください。
多分火事だと思います。こちらは中部高速の柿内サービスエリアなんですけどね、裏の山からなんだかすっごい火と煙が上がってるのが見えるんですよ。
Oh, Oh, the fire. Remember the fire in chapter 2, right? Where they found Takano's body? So it's like this again?
あんなところ誰も立ち入らないからなんで火がついてるのかよくわかんないですけど、とにかく連絡した方がいいと思って。山火事にならないとも限らないし。
わかりました。すぐに現場を確認しますので、そちら様のお名前とすぐに連絡のつく電話番号、それから火災現場の詳細な場所をお願いします。
消防司令部より通達。 G ブロック西側山斜面にて不審火の通報あり。街道から離れていることからカップルの焚き火か不法投棄のゴミに放火したかの可能性があります。現場は深い森林地帯、周辺に民家はないが延焼の可能性あり。直ちに現場を確認されたし。
消防署ですか。こちらは G ブロック第3消防分隊です。通報の現場にさっき到着。ドラム缶が一つ山中に放棄され炎上しているのを確認しました。火は鎮火しつつあり延焼の可能性はなしで、ドラム缶の中に多分人じゃないかと思うんです。人らしきものが灯油か何かで焼かれたという感じで、警察の人にも連絡した方がいいんじゃないかと思いまして。間違いねえよ。これ人だよ。
Okay, so that was basically the call from last chapter, right? With what happened to Takano, finding her body in the mountains, right? So that was basically it. Victim of the fifth year, so this is gonna be Tomitake? Again, I mean.
今年のたたりってことっすかね。
そういうことになるんですかね。毎年いろんな殺し方を見せてくれますが、今年は特に際立っていますね。
自分で自分の喉をかき破るなんて普通じゃないっす。
So it's definitely him again. So yeah, with Takano acting like that earlier, right? So it really adds, at least for my theories, that Takano really, or not just Takano, I mean, but it's people that's been doing this, not supernatural. Maybe Takano did something to Tomitake, right? And then he'd gone crazy. That's the thing about Tomitake, though. Why is it like instant when when it's with him, right? Like instantly, he becomes crazy. He's normal, and then he kills himself at the same night, right? But for example, for Keiichi, I guess for me, I think as I said, it was Shion the second one, right? Like it builds up little by little by little. But for Tomitake, it's like just instant. Why is it like that? Maybe, we'll find out when we get to, I guess, the later chapters, right? The answer arcs.
あとは鑑識のじい様に任せましょう。きっと何かの怪しげな薬物を検出してくれるに違いありません。
お疲れ様です。お疲れ様です。
ああ、おいさん、小宮山さんたちが到着しました。
大石さん、お疲れ様です。今年は一頭来てるのが出たらしいじゃないですか。
裏を書かれました。私はてっきり今夜知るのは北条哲平だとばかり思ってたんですがね。
仏は何者です？
富武二郎。年に何回かひなみ沢に来てる趣味の写真家さんです。
Wait, what? Okay.
ノーマークだったな。
どうなんでしょうね。北条宅にずっと張り付いてたのがバレて、ターゲットを変更したとか。
Yeah, but the problem is now they're gonna be looking for Hojo, right? Because he's missing now, right? Because Keiichi killed him. So there's gonna be a problem.
かなあ。恨めったな。
で、北条哲平の方は何も問題なし。
ねえ、 夕方頃に娘が祭りに出かけて、その少し後にバイクで出かけまして。先に娘が帰ってきて、あれ？まだ帰ってないかな？どっかで飲んだくれてるのかな？
大石さんいらっしゃいますか？高杉課長からです。1号車の無線にお願いします。
Wait, that was it? I thought they were gonna say something more. The hell was that, man? But I wanted more scenes from that with Uishi-san and the detective, I suppose, right? But it is gonna be a problem because they were already checking on Teppei and Hojo, right? They were saying there in the tips that they were looking at him, and even Uishi said that he was thinking that Teppei was gonna be the year's victim, right? But it turned out to be Tomitake. So if he's not going home, he's not coming outside, for example, they're gonna be like, oh, what happened to him? Is he gone? Is he missing again? Or whatever, and then they're gonna have to search him, right? And yeah, Keiichi might be in trouble. I mean, we will have to see. But this chapter though, kinda the meeting of the murderers. As Keiichi said, like the demons. Was it demons or devils? But yeah, both of them at the ending there. It seems like it was just creepy. Takano is just very, very creepy. Like, I want to know the answer arcs already. Like, I want to see if she was really the one, like, doing all this stuff, right? Because it really feels like it. Ever since the first chapter, it's like, is this woman? She's very, very suspicious, right? I get it. Well, it was always her. Maybe. But we'll see. But yes, we will continue this and do more of Higurashi When They Cry. Chapter 3, Tatarigoroshi in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.